Hi, and welcome back to Let's Get Lit. In today's video, I'm going to do the movie review for The Great Gatsby, the 2013 version by Baz Luhrmann, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and a bunch of others. So, let's start off with the good, we'll go into the bad, and then should you watch it or should you not? All of that and more. So, let's start off with the positives. This movie has a bunch of positive aspects to it. I mean, the first being that a majority of the book is the movie. I would say a good 90 to 95% of this book is in that adaptation. Baz Luhrmann and his team specifically use the text as dialogue. So let's get on to another positive. Baz Luhrmann is really known for his vision and his visual style of cinematography when filmmaking. He directed Romeo and Juliet from the 90s. He directed Australia with Nicole Kidman. He directed the new Elvis movie that came out recently. All of these visually just stunning films. And this really works with Gatsby, especially with all the imagery that's in the book, from the green light to the white sheets to the eyes of God. Everything is just visually stunning in this movie. I would also say that another positive of the movie is that it's 2 hours and 22 minutes long, but it never feels that way. So some movies that are over 2 hours can feel like they drag on or feel like they're really slow. This one does not do that. This movie is quick and to the point, and it's fantastic. It's almost like a piece of music. It will get really climactic and then it'll kind of flow back down to find its rhythm and then go back up and then go back down. It's a really nicely paced film. I would also like to commend the cast in this adaptation. I think Leonardo DiCaprio, Tobey Maguire, Isla Fisher, Joel Edgerton, Carey Mulligan, every single person in this film does a really great job. One of the best scenes that I love in this movie is the same scene from the book in chapter 7 when they all go into the city on the really hot day and everyone's frustrations are just out on the table and they're yelling at each other. It is such a well-crafted scene in the book and translates really well to the movie. That whole scene, just watching it, was incredible, and every actor does their job. Leo's temperament and his ups and downs, Joel Edgerton's brashness of Tom, and Daisy's character, oh my gosh, are just like so well done. I would also like to commend Carey Mulligan for Daisy, what could have been a very stereotypical role, especially for this novel. She gives such depth and characterization. You understand every reasoning behind what she does. You understand all of her actions and her choices. Really well done. Hands down, I think it's fantastic. All right, so those are the positives. Let's talk about the negatives. There are a few really kind of nitpicky things. I'm just doing this because just reading the book. So one of them is that this is an adaptation. Like with any adaptation, there are going to be differences, cuts, translations, you name it. So the big thing with this one is that really the majority of changes happen after Gatsby's death. And I'm talking about the majority of the story is still intact. After Gatsby's death, in the book, Nick mentions Gatsby's dad comes in, they have the funeral, Nick decides he's going to move back to the Midwest. After that, he sees Tom again one last time, he meets Jordan one last time, ends things. It kind of has a very satisfying conclusion to it, and that does not happen in this translation at all. Really, this adaptation, Nick just states that New York is now haunted for him and he can no longer stay. That's really where it ends. Another change is that during the last few days, Nick is staying in New York. He doesn't run into Tom. I really kind of wish this moment had stayed in the movie, and the reason why is because in the book it's so powerful, especially when he sees Tom and Tom tries to acknowledge him and tries to be friendly, and Nick is just like, I know what you did. You're an awful person. I thought that would have been such a strong ending, but it doesn't happen here. The other thing about this adaptation is that the entire story is structured as a memory in the past, which is done with the book, but the movie takes it to where Nick is in a sanatorium, not in a crazy hospital, but he's in a sanatorium for his alcoholism. He admits that he is a drunkard, that he overindulges in booze and maybe sometimes drugs. So the movie is framed of him looking back from this perspective, and throughout the movie, it'll jump back to when Nick is in the sanatorium, kind of with quick little snippets of dialogue, and then it's back into the story. Again, the book is not like this. It's a memory, but it's not written from this point of view. The ending of the movie is where Nick finishes writing his book because his therapist in the movie from the sanatorium is like, maybe you should write this down. And the very end is where Nick turns over the cover page titled The Great Gatsby. So this whole film is him telling his story and writing the book out. A few other small changes that happened in the movie compared to the book is the automobile accident with Myrtle. In the book, we just see the aftermath of the situation along with, the side-by-side separate stories. In the movie, we see the full hit and everything, of course, because Baz Luhrmann wants to make that moment very powerful. But again, in the book, we just see the aftermath. In the movie, She runs out into the middle of the street. It's almost like slow motion. You can see the yellow car hitting her. She goes up in the air, she flies, and then she comes back down, hits the car, hits the ground. Also, the way the information about the wreck is told separately from the book to the movie. In the book, you have the two separate stories. In the movie, once the accident happens, Tom and Nick and Jordan are at the scene, and Tom just tells them everything. Tom's like, Gatsby's the one who hit her with the car, and that was his car, and da-da-da-da. So it all just kind of happens right then and there. And instead of in the book where we're not sure about Tom's character until the very end, when he runs into Nick after the funeral, all of it is confirmed at that moment. We realize that Tom is a horrible person, doesn't have any redeeming qualities. He is just an awful human being. And in the movie, just kind of cut and dry, that's it. With the positives, the negatives, and everything in between, do I recommend that you watch this adaptation? 100% yes, I do. So I definitely recommend it because it is a really, really well done job. From the story, to the acting, to the music, to the visuals, it's all fantastic. I will say that with this movie, again, it's 2.5 hours. For the most part, it's a very accurate portrayal of the story in and of itself. Few slight modifications and changes, but it's definitely a really good watch. And if you don't have time to read the book, obviously watch the series of Let's Get Lit, but I would also suggest watching The Great Gatsby. You can watch it on HBO Max, you can rent it, I think it's on Amazon. I would definitely check it out. It's a great summer movie, especially because it deals in the summertime, but it's a good drama. If it's a rainy day, you have nothing to do in the afternoon, put it on. I think you'll really enjoy it. All of that to say, those of you who are watching to the end, can you watch this instead of reading it? I think you can watch it instead of read it. Just know the differences so that way you don't look stupid. And just make sure you go into a little bit more detail. Like I said, the ending is the only thing that really changes and the framing, but you can watch this movie, do a little digging, you'll be 100% good. So that is my movie review of The Great Gatsby. Tune in next time as we discuss a whole new series. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and as always, stay lit.